see I get instant answers. If I was, let's say there was a load, I was on the line and some other guy was on the line. The other guy was using one of these smaller companies with some crappy software and the instant check. I'd get that load first because I have an instant. It only takes 1 or 2 seconds to get an answer. While he's waiting for emails or phone calls, I done booked that load. Okay, so this means everything. All right, today I want to make a quick video on factoring companies and which one you should go with. I usually don't recommend this stuff because, you know, there's always horror stories with all the factoring companies. You know, you can't please everybody, and sometimes things just screwed up, you know, for whatever reason. And there's always going to be, you know, people that are not happy with, you know, certain factoring companies. So I tend to stay away from it. I was talking to a friend, and, you know, he was asking me for recommendation, and I said the same thing, you know. But what I will recommend is that you go with a big factoring company, and there's, you know, there's a few reasons why. The big companies, they usually charge about 3% for factoring. Some might charge less, 2.9. I mean, you might get it as low as 2.5. But the thing is, there's, you know, there's a 1-year contract when you do when you sign up with a factoring company, which means you can't factor with another company until you're done with that year contract. And, you know, contract sucks. I don't like contracts. You know, I don't do it with the cable. You know, the cable, they have like a 1-year contract for the satellite. So I'd rather pay more just not to be in the contract. But this is different because if you can't factor your loads, you know, that means you have to wait 30 days to 45 days, even 60 days to get paid by the broker. And, you know, by that time you have fuel, which is a tremendous expense. You got maintenance, repairs, you have drivers you have to pay. So factoring, it plays a big role. And like I said, the 1-year thing I don't like. There's companies that offer a 30-day contract, which is a good thing, but the ones that usually do are usually small companies, factoring companies. And I haven't done business with none of them. I mean, with all of them. I had a carrier. In my experience, I didn't like it because the smaller you are, the worse you know, the infrastructure. They don't have the right infrastructure in place. You know, when I say infrastructure, I mean the software to do the credit checks, and that can lose. You can lose thousands of dollars by you know, a split second. I'll give you an example. I have a carrier that I dispatch for, and he had it was a small factoring company. They offered a 30-day contract, you know, and he went for it. You know, that's why they can offer, because they're small companies and they need some kind of bait to pull you in. But when I used to do the factoring check, you know, the credit check, it was impossible because, you know, for one, he was a new authority, so it was hard to get loads for him in a box truck, so to begin with. And every time I looked for the credit check, half the time it would return needs approval. And what that means is you have to call them or email them so they can personally give you the approval for that particular broker. And the bad thing is half the time they don't even get back to you. Sometimes, you know, after 2 or 3 calls, they'll stop answering the phone, you know, because that's all they do all day is answer phone and emails to check. So if you don't have the right software where you can check instantly, and I mean instantly, because it only takes 1 or 2 seconds to lose a load. And, you know, I don't want to name the company, but it was just so horrible, man. It just made booking extremely hard. You know, box trucks are hard to dispatch in the first place. And eventually I was able to talk them to get into something new. And then when he went to go switch, they were upset with him. They stopped answering his calls, and it was just hard because you have to make sure these loads are factorable, because even though they pay you the money right away, they'll wait for the brokers to pay them. And if the brokers don't pay them, they're going to take the money out of your account. So you're still on the hook for that money. So you just can't say, hey, I'm just going to book any load, because if you don't check the credit and you book a bad load and that broker goes out of business or decides not to pay you, you're going to be on the hook for that money. Yeah, they'll pay you, you know, within 1 or 2 days, but you're still on the hook for that money. So the credit check is everything. When you look for a factoring company, look for how big they are. Do they have the money and capital to fund all these loads? And do they have the right software in place? Because like I said, when it comes to finding loads, every second counts. And I'll give you an example here in a minute. I'm going to show you the five companies, big companies that I know are big factoring companies. One of them is RTS. Almost all these companies have fuel cards if you want to get into that. But RTS is one of the biggest ones, and it's actually one that I use. Another one is called OTR Capital. They're another big factoring company. So when you do this, make sure you contact a bunch of them and see who can give you the best rate, and make sure they're big enough and they have enough good reviews, because at the end of the day, you want to get paid right away. You don't want a factoring company dicking around. Oh, well, and here's another one, Apex. Apex is another one, another big factoring company that I know of. And then the other one is TAFS, is another factoring company that a lot of people use. So, take your time, call them all and see who can offer you the best. Like I said, most of them are going to ask for a year contract, and then the rate's going to hover around 3%. But the most important thing, one of the most important things about this is the software you get. I'm going to show you. I use RTS myself, and this is a credit check. When you check somebody's credit, it has to be instant, because like I said, you could be on the phone, or all it takes is a second. There's been times where a load would pop up instantly. I'd call, I click the number, call instantly, and I'll be put on hold. And by the time they get around to answer me, and I'm the second caller, the load is gone, because the first person that got a hold of them, we're able to get them first. And if you have to email your factoring company to get approval, it's a bad business practice. You're gonna lose a lot of money, and you're not gonna be able to sustain that. So I'm gonna give you an example here. I'm gonna look on this board. I'm gonna get a random, and you can see here they're rated A, B, C, A. These are the ones that I saved, to show you an example. I'm gonna grab a random one here off the board, and what you do is you enter the MC number, and you should be able to get a decision instantly. This is yellow for caution, and that's a red flag. It says here, carrier name on the bowl must match the factor, so that's a good sign that they're double brokers. And if you click on it, you can easily they only have 7 voices that they're basing this on, and to tell you the average days of pay. So you should stay away from yellow ratings. And then there's red ratings, which is automatic. No, I'm gonna grab another one here, see if I can get a green or a red. This one's another yellow, I would stay away from. Let me find another here. Global Trans, this is they're not popular. Like I said, that's why I don't recommend anything. Global Trans, they have poor rates, but they always pay almost 100% of the time. But they have poor ratings because of the rates. But people are different. As you can see, they have an A rating, and they factored with this company alone $366,000. So this is a goal. You're gonna get this factored. Always look for the grade, and you need this answer instantly. You can't send the email and wait for somebody that's sitting behind a desk all day answering these factoring questions. If you can't get an instant answer, you're gonna lose money, and you can't really build a business that way. So I always say go with the biggest one. Make sure the software is up to par, because the most I can spend is 1 or 2 seconds on this. Sometimes the other one I was telling you about, it took like 10 seconds to get an answer. It would just scroll, and then it would just pop up, need approval. And that means I have to either call for somebody that's not going to answer the phone more half the time, and the other half the time, or email them, and I'm going to get an email half the time back. And if I do, it's going to be minutes late. The load's going to be long gone. When you do your factoring, make sure you get, for me, this is the most important. The 3% doesn't bother me. What bothers me the most is getting this information here, and it has to be instant. Let me see if I can find the red one, so I can show you an example of how it works. This one is a no-go. This is a no-go. You see the red? That means either they're double brokers, or they don't always pay on time. They tell you the invoice is included here in this one. with this company, and they never, I don't know if they never pay, but it's a no. And like I said before, if you decide to factor or do a low with these people and they don't pay, even though you see the red sign is telling you don't mess with these people, and they don't pay the factoring company in 60 days or less, it's going to come out of your money. The factoring company is not going to lose. When you look in the contracts, it takes a lawyer to read it, but there's some stuff in there that's going to tell you that that you're giving them permission to go into your bank account to pull money in case something like this happens. So when you're doing factoring companies, make sure it's the biggest ones you can find. The big ones, one of the big ones. Make sure the credit is, the credit software is good, because this means everything. With this right here, you see I get instant answers. If I was, let's say there was a load, I was on the line and some other guy was on the line. The other guy was using one of these smaller companies with some crappy software, and the instant check, I'd get that load first because I have an instant. It only takes 1 or 2 seconds to get an answer. While he's waiting for emails or phone calls, I done booked that load. Okay, so this means everything. If you wanna be successful, you need the right tools, and this is why I use this one particularly. I'm pretty sure the other big ones have the similar software that's pretty fast. But if you have something that's going to be slow, or you have to email, run away. I don't care if they give you a 1% rate. Run away, because anything that takes more than 2 seconds to check the credit, it's going to be a problem. Trust me. And you could be dialing a number. You could dial the number. By the time you dial the 4th number of the broker, somebody done beat you to the call, and they're on the line already booking. So the last thing you need is a credit check slowing you down. So let me go again through the top 5 that I've known, the biggest ones. This is RTS, OTR Capital, Core Fund Capital, Apex, and TAFS. And they all have gas cards. I mean, if you want them, if you want to save money on gas, if you're in a box truck, I recommend you stay out of the big truck stops, because the gas there, it'll save you 30-60 cents automatically just by not going there. And you can fit your truck in a regular gas station. Just make sure you look at the clearance to make sure you don't come knocking down the roof. But as far as factoring company, in a nutshell, this is what it is. And like I said, the first 3 make sure they're big enough to fund your money and everybody else's money. And 2, make sure the credit check is good. If you can't get a decision in 1 or 2 seconds, you're going to lose a lot of loads, and it's going to be bad for business, and you're going to have to move. And if you're with a bad company, you're going to be locked in for a year or whatever it is. So make sure you test their credit check software first, because every second counts. I mean, every second counts. And then work your rate and make sure you read everything. All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go. So if anything, just hit me up.